You're probably not going to believe this, but I chose my graduate school based on one factor and one factor only. It wasn't the price, it wasn't the location, and it wasn't the quality of the school. It was the fact that there was one man that I wanted to learn from, and he was a teacher at that school. Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you who it was and what made him such a great trainer. Hey guys, this is Mac Lake bringing you tips, tools, and techniques for developing leaders. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a teacher, trainer, or mentor who really didn't carry any credibility with you? I have, and that's no fun because when you're under training like that, you don't really feel like you're being developed. And it's hard to really connect with it because you don't feel like that individual's bringing a level of expertise that you're really hungry for. That's why in 1987, when I decided to go to seminary, I chose Dallas Theological Seminary. One reason, Dr. Howard Hendricks. I'd never met Dr. Hendricks, but I'd read his books and I'd seen him on video. And because of that, I was like, that's a man that I want to learn from. That's a man that I want to be around. I want to become like him. There was something about his credibility that drew me. And this is a major lesson that I've learned. The higher the level of credibility of the teacher, the higher level of teachability of the student. So my credibility impacts the student's teachability. Think about this. If you're under a teacher who has a high degree of credibility and they're teaching something that you really want to learn, you are focused. You are dialed in. I mean, you're really, really listening. But if you're sitting under a teacher who doesn't have credibility and they're teaching a subject you want to learn, it really is hard to engage. So we have to work on our level of credibility. So in this video, I want to share 4 habits that will help you develop a higher level of credibility with those you train. Habit number 1 is position yourself as a learner. When I went to Dallas Seminary, it was no surprise to me whatsoever that Dr. Hendricks was a great teacher, and he was a great teacher. But what did surprise me was he was also a great student. I mean, every time he came into class, he was sharing what he was learning, where he was growing. And the big takeaway for me as a trainer was that I have to be a student first and a trainer second. That's how we have to posture ourselves. And when you create that habit of posturing yourself as a student first and a trainer second, here's what happens. All of a sudden, you have fresh things that you have to share with your class. You're constantly hungry, you're constantly growing, and you're building this catalog of insights and wisdom and knowledge that your students are going to benefit from. See, what I want you to understand is this, is when we posture ourselves as a student first, our credibility goes up with those we're training. Habit number 2 is always carry a learning journal with you. Solomon said in Proverbs chapter 2, tune your ear to wisdom and concentrate on understanding. Cry out for insight and ask for understanding. Search for them as you would for silver. Seek them like a hidden treasure. Solomon is telling us that there is wisdom, knowledge, and insight around us every single day. We just got to look for it. And not just look for it haphazardly. He's saying look for it like a treasure. I mean, go on a learning treasure hunt every day. Here's what I've learned. Contentment is the enemy of our credibility. Contentment is the enemy of our credibility. When we begin to get content with our level of wisdom, knowledge, and insight, we're sort of content with where we're at, then our credibility will begin to diminish over time. That's why I say carry a learning journal with you everywhere you go. Or maybe it's, a digital notebook on using Evernote or something like that, a tool like that where you're capturing things you're learning every day. Because here's what I know. When I posture myself to learn something every day, then I'm probably going to learn something every day. So if I posture myself by carrying around a tool where I know I can capture learning, then I'm probably going to learn something. But if I'm not posturing myself, having a tool ready, then my mind is probably not going to be looking for those lessons and I'm not going to capture them. I want to grow every day, and I want to grow intentionally every day, not accidentally every day. All right, so you can do that by carrying a learning journal with you. Habit number 3 is always be growing in your area of expertise. That's the thing I loved about Dr. Hendricks. When he would come into class, he was always sharing the new things he was learning and about teaching, about leadership, which were his areas of expertise. And here's the truth. We can all grow to this certain level where we sort of, get comfortable, and truth is you probably are an expert in your area with those around you. But we can't let that become an excuse to stop growing. Because here's the truth. When you get better, the people around you get better. When you get smarter, the people around you get smarter. When you get wiser, the people around you get wiser. So we've always got to be growing in our area of expertise. I'll never forget, several years ago, I was doing a leadership pipeline training at a church. And I spent all day working with this church and teaching leadership pipeline stuff. And I got in the car to leave, go home. And as I was driving home, it hit me. I didn't say one thing today new. Not one new thing. I didn't say anything today that I'd never said before. And it crushed me because I realized I wasn't delivering fresh stuff that day, that I had stopped growing in my area of expertise. And so we can't do that because it's a wall for us. And we got to push through that wall. And I'll tell you something, it's easy to grow up to that sort of 80% level of expertise. It's that last 20% that's hard to grow in. And so here's what you got to do. You got to take your area of expertise and start reading more books about that area. Start interviewing some people who are experts in that area that you've never talked to before. Go to a class on your area of expertise and don't let it feel like a waste of time. What you're doing is you're going in and you're looking for those things that you're not already familiar with. You're just trying to pick up those one or two things that are going to push you and make you a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit wiser in your area of expertise. Habit number 4 is always be teaching the freshest things you're learning. Every time I went to Dr. Hendricks' class, I sat in the front row, middle seat. I was the first one there and the last one to leave. And when class ended, I'd make my way around over to his desk and I would stand there and talk to him, and other guys would be there talking to him as well, asking him questions. And I remember so many times I'd look down at his teaching notes, and there were his teaching notes typed up, but in both sides of the margin, there were handwritten notes that you could tell were written in fresh ink. He was constantly adding to his insights. He was constantly adding the freshest things he was learning to things that he had taught for years. And guys, when we do that, when we're teaching things that are fresh to us, it helps our credibility to go up. So as you're learning, as you're growing, add what you're learning into what you've taught in the past. Just make those notes in the side. Add them to your training somehow. Because here's what happens. When you add fresh stories, when you add fresh insights, when you add fresh information or fresh techniques they can use to grow, then every time you do that, then you teach with greater energy and passion. And when you teach with greater energy and passion, your credibility goes up with those you're training. So hey, what are some other things that we can do to increase our credibility with those we're training? I'd love to hear from you. Put some of your ideas and thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.